Hey guys, this is Will from Monkey Steals Peach here, and for today's video I'm on Harrison Island, which is a nature reserve right in the middle of the centre of Perth City, just in the Swan River. And as you can see, there's kangaroos, there's all kinds of wildlife here, so thought I'd show you guys this place and use it to talk to you about how I learnt Chinese, because that's a question I've had in the comments a lot of times since I started the channel, so it's something that's been on my list of stuff to film for quite a while. So yeah, today's a nice day. I thought, why not walk out here, show you some of the scenery, show you this beautiful place where I live, and tell you about that. Yeah. Now, in this little pond here in the middle of the island, there are usually a bunch of pelicans, but it looks like there's none there today, so yeah, that's kind of it with nature, I guess. There's some storks and some ducks and stuff. I mean, you can't really see them, they're pretty far away. But yeah, this is a really nice place. Absolutely love it here. You know, it's just so nice, slap bang in the middle of the city, and you can just feel like a million miles away from it all. But anyway, yeah, so I was today going to talk about how I learned Chinese. So I'll start from the end, just, you know, provide some context, I guess. So I did do my degree, my undergraduate degree in Chinese language in Shanghai International Studies University. So that was from 2015 to 2019. And besides general Chinese language, that also included the etymology of Chinese characters, so basically like how they developed from Jiaguwen, which is the oracle bone script 3,500 years ago, up to, you know, the simplified characters used in mainland China and Singapore today. So, you know, the entire process of evolution. You know, the linguistics as well, like including how the language itself has evolved. And also classical Chinese, so how to read and interpret, you know, stuff from like the time of Confucius, the Book of Songs, you know, Lao Tzu, Zhuangzi, you know, so yeah, classical Chinese, so basically like the whole thing. So that's just to give you a bit of context as to where my Chinese is now, and to explain, you know, so that you know that that's stuff that I did learn formally. But the main kind of gist of this video is I want to talk about how I learnt in the beginning and how I became proficient in just conversational Chinese, because I do think that I found a pretty effective method, and it worked very well when I compare myself to other people I know that have had a very hard time learning Chinese. So I thought I'd share the method that I used, and for you guys that are interested in learning, well, any language, or to be honest, this, I mean, this can even apply to, you know, martial arts training, or to anything, I suppose. It's just an approach more than anything else. Alright, so to go right back to the beginning then, I moved to China in 2007, and just about, I don't know, maybe a few weeks before that, I got a CD from the Times newspaper, like an introduction to Mandarin. And so I learnt, like, you know, hello, ni hao, my name's Will, wo jiao Will, and the numbers 1 to 10. I don't know, maybe a couple of other things I can't remember, but I mean, you might as well just consider it 0 when I arrived, more or less 0 when I arrived. But I really wanted to learn Chinese. That was the thing. I really wanted to be somebody who was good at Chinese. And I was doing this, when I first went to China, I was doing this volunteer program in Xi'an, the ancient capitals of China. And this volunteer program was working in Xi'an Museum, helping the tour guides there with their English, and also translating some of the sign, well, not translating, making sure that English was correct on, you know, the signage around the museum and things like that. So when I was there, there were some people that had already been learning Mandarin. You know, there were quite a few people from the States, including quite a few ABCs, you know, American-born Chinese, you know, who were learning Mandarin or who had some level of Mandarin. And so I was seeing all these people, and I really wanted to be like one of them, you know. I really wanted to also be able to speak Chinese. So pretty much, you know, literally first couple of days I started going to, we lived right near the Muslim quarter of Xi'an, which there's a big like touristy souvenir market and food, you know, like street food area with all the historical buildings. So I used to just go around there and just buy kind of junky souvenirs, you know, just cheap little plastic Buddhas or little, you know, bagua things that you dangle from your car mirror, you know, little feng shui things, you know, just this kind of tacky stuff like that. I just used to go and buy tons of it because I was just so excited at anything Chinese, right? And so I just would start with you know, picking up a couple of phrases from my friends, like 多少钱, like how much is this? And then, you know, the whole process of bargaining the tourist tack for, you know, a lesser price, and you go, ah, 太贵了, it's like too expensive. 便宜点好吗? You know, can you make it cheaper? And just kind of learning these little phrases one by one, and slowly kind of being able to like structure a conversation, and then just practicing it, and then, you know, the people would react, and then you hear what they react, and then you find out what those words mean. You start to hear the same words over and over again, and slowly, you know, before you know it, you're putting together like a simple conversation within, you know, one like fixed kind of situation, one fixed parameter, and you can, you know, you get good at that conversation. And then people start telling you your Chinese is good, and you feel good, and you get confident. You're like, oh yeah, I'm really good at Chinese here, I can go out and buy stuff. And then, you know, you get other volunteers who don't speak any Chinese, and then they come along with you, and then they ask you to translate and help them buy stuff. And that kind of increases that, you know, feel good thing, and you're like, yeah, you know, I'm the guy who speaks Chinese, I can, you know, help them to buy stuff. And then you branch out into like another situation, you know, taking a taxi. You get in the taxi, the driver says to you, 你去哪里? Where are you going? So you start to memorize a few popular tourist spots around the city, and how to say it, you know, 我要去大雁塔, like I want to go to the big wild goose pagoda. That's actually the place where Xuanzang, you know, the monk from Journey to the West, came and brought all the sutras back from India. Anyway, so you start to learn, you know, you put yourself in like another situation, and you get used to how the conversation goes, you know, with the taxi driver. And then, you know, and then it's the whole same thing. People start telling you your Chinese is good, you feel good, you get encouraged to kind of say more. And you just, you know, start to ask the taxi driver, like, 你喜欢足球吗? Like, hey, do you like football? 我是英国人, I'm British. And you just, you know, just little things here and there. You start to slowly increase the amount of conversation. And then when they reply to you, you slowly start to hear these words and phrases, and you just, as you start to hear them over and over again, and you're like, oh, I've heard that phrase, oh yeah, here it is again. And, you know, you ask someone what it means, and you remember it, and you're just kind of accumulating little by little, while at the same time, you know, getting this positive feedback that's like, hey, you know, everyone's telling me I'm good at Chinese, this feels really good. I mean, you know, those kind of small steps might sound quite self-explanatory, and it might seem like I'm stating the obvious, but the thing is, you know, because, you know, I also taught English for the vast majority of the time I was in China. It's kind of what everyone does, right? When you go to Asia. So what I would find, both with other expats that were, you know, learning Chinese, and with my students that were learning English, is the biggest thing is confidence. Like, people would just always be afraid they're going to say something wrong, or they would always be afraid that they're not going to know how, you know, how, like, when the conversation goes a different way to how they anticipated, they're gonna like panic and not know what to do. So they become quite timid and don't really dare to speak out. And I think, you know, there's quite a bit to say there with like the psychological aspect as well, because if you have that attitude and you always say to yourself, oh, you know, my Chinese isn't good enough, I don't know what people are saying, you know, oh, what's going on here, I can't understand anything, you kind of start to reinforce in your own minds that you don't speak Chinese. Whereas, you know, the way that I did it, it was kind of like, because I wanted to speak Chinese so much, I kind of just, you know, faked it till I made it, so to speak. I would just say, yeah, I speak Chinese, sure, I'll come and translate for you in the shop or in the taxi, you know, even though I've actually got no idea what's going on. And you know, sometimes, you know, the Chinese people would then go and start a conversation with me and just start saying stuff. I got no idea what they're saying, but rather than just freaking out and being like, oh, 我听不懂, 我听不懂, like, oh, I don't understand, I just be kind of nod my head and smile and throw in a few, ah, 对对对, you know, yeah, you know, just throw in a few things like that, pretend I know what they're saying, and, you know, start to learn to recognize when they're asking me a question, and then kind of just, you know, blag my way out of it, so I don't know what I'm talking about. And the thing is, that really helped, because, okay, yeah, although I was kind of bullshitting, at the end of the day, because of that, I was getting so much more exposure to the language, and that's really the thing, is you just need that input. You need the language to be drilling in, you know, into your head, hearing it as much as possible, starting to recognize phrases and speech patterns, and just getting familiar with it, and your brain will start to, you know, connect the dots naturally. I mean, how do you think babies learn a language, right? And there's no one to translate stuff for them. They just, you know, they just hear it over and over again. So, you know, a lot of the people who weren't confident and were like, oh, I don't know what they're gonna say, oh, well, you speak Chinese, right? Can you come and translate? They're missing those opportunities to get better. And it's not like my Chinese was actually better than theirs, it was exactly the same level, maybe sometimes even worse, but it was just I was putting myself out there and they weren't. So it's kind of, you know, self-perpetuating. The more you put yourself out there, the better you get. So I'd say probably, I think it took me maybe 3 months to get to the stage where I was pretty confident to, you know, survive by myself, to speak, you know, to just go out and know that in any situation I can pretty much make myself understood, I can get the gist of what's going on. So I think that pretty much sums it up, how I learnt Chinese. And as I said at the beginning, I think as well, this is a kind of thing that, I mean, it doesn't really just apply to Chinese, it doesn't even apply to language. I mean, if you can use the same kind of method for anything, I mean, like if we're talking about martial arts as well, you know, the biggest thing, I think with martial arts, I did it the other way around, in that I didn't actually do any sparring or any sort of contact stuff for the first several years, you know. When I was training Wing Chun as a teenager, there was no contact stuff. It was, oh, you know, this is a deadly martial art, it's too dangerous, you know, all of that crap. So I didn't actually do any contact stuff really. I did a little bit of light contact in my second Wing Chun club, but the first time I did full contact was not till Kun Yushan, so yeah, like not till like 2009. I'd already done a good few years of martial arts, and that was a, you know, a big wake-up call. So you know, comparing how I learnt languages with how I learnt martial arts, I would say, you know, it is best to kind of throw yourself in the deep end, so to speak, as early as possible. You know, just for that kind of reality kick, so you don't think you're better than you are. I mean, I'm not saying, you know, go and get you the hell beaten out of you on your first day of a martial arts class, but at least, you know, try and put yourself in, you know, non-scripted, non-compliant situations as early as possible. You know, much like I did with learning a language. But I mean, you know, there can still be a kind of parameter. You know, I didn't just go out and start discussing, you know, Taoist philosophy with people in Chinese. I'd go to, you know, situations of varying comfort. So I'd start with the market and then go on to the you know, taxi drivers, and then go on to, you know, chatting to people in bars, and, you know, just slowly, you know, more and more. So, you know, same thing with martial arts, just have that level of contact and non-compliance, but within the parameter of what you kind of know you can do, and push your boundaries gradually. And that's something that I regret having not done, because I had to kind of redo all that, you know, even though I'd been doing martial arts for quite a long time, which was very frustrating, but it was also very humbling as well. You know, you start to think, oh yeah, I'm pretty good. I got my black sash in Wing Chun. I've learned, you know, Sulim Tao, Chum Kyu, Bu Ji. I've learned the knives and the pole and the dummy, and, you know, the whole system. And then you can't get smacked in the face, and you suddenly realise none of it really. Alright, so yeah, hopefully that gave you guys some insights into how I learnt Chinese, and I think that's kind of a skill that you can transfer over to, you know, all aspects of your life, your martial arts training, whatever. Hopefully it was of benefit to some of you, and yeah, thanks as always for watching, thanks for your support, and I'll see you in the next video.